Hello, my name is Jeremy Brown, Senior Technical Reviewer with NSF's Plumbing Program. This webinar segment is on certification of products to NSF Standard 14, plastics, piping, and relating products. This is one of several webinar segments for plumbing products offered by NSF. NSF Standard 14 covers finished products like pipe, fittings, solvent cement, thread sealants, as well as the plastic materials themselves that make up the final product. For PVC, NSF also has an ingredient program that qualifies PVC ingredients to be used in pressure pipe applications and drinking water applications. NSF Standard 14 was first established in 1965 at a time when the plastics industry was struggling to establish quality and credibility while entering a metal-dominated marketplace. The standard addresses multiple end uses for plastic pipe, including potable water, drain waste and vent, fire sprinkler, fuel gas, and geothermal, and many others. The major model plumbing codes in the U.S. all require plastic pipe and fittings to be third-party certified to NSF Standard 14. This requirement is carried through to each state's plumbing code. In some cases, even state waterworks regulations require NSF 14 on products installed in water mains and service lines. In this segment, we're going to review the basics of Standard 14. Physical properties testing of compounds. This is also called cell classification of materials. Performance testing in accordance with product standards such as ASTM, AWWA, CSA, long-term hydrostatic strength testing for pressure pipe applications, dezinkification and stress corrosion resistance. This is a test required on brass and bronze with zinc levels greater than 15%. NSF Standard 61 for potable water applications. NSF 61 is the standard for drinking water additives health effects. Any plastic pipe used in potable water or well casing applications must comply with this requirement. And quality control testing. NSF Standard 14 references several other standards as a base product standard and then builds additional requirements on top of those. For most plastic pipe and fittings that are governed by ASTM standards for dimensions, wall thickness, burst, and other performance-related aspects. Also referenced are CSA standards for use in Canada, AWWA standards for distribution products, as well as ASME and ASSE standards. NSF requires not only testing on the finished product, but also annual testing on plastic materials for physical properties. In plastics, performance is not only determined by the extrusion or molding process, but is heavily dependent on the ongoing quality of the compounds used. Here's an example of the types of testing conducted on PVC material as per ASTM D1784. These tests include impact, tensile strength, deflection temperature, and they help ensure consistent performance in the finished product. While many ASTM standards require long-term strength testing, NSF Standard 14 is unique because it requires this testing to be in accordance with Plastic Pipe Institute's Technical Report 3, which outlines very extensive data requirements. When NSF tests plastic pipe materials for long-term strength, we test the materials to failure at many different pressures to establish a relationship between stress and time. This example chart shows this relationship with pressure on the left and time along the bottom. Plastic materials reach failure more quickly given a high stress, and the lower the stress, the longer the material will last. When testing cold water pressure pipe, multiple specimens are tested from at least 3 separate lots of material to failure. For at least one lot, those failures must be spread out over 10,000 hours worth of testing, and the other lots must have failures that spread over 2,000 hours. This data can then be used to verify a material's pressure rating given a minimum service life of 50 years. For products seeking hot water ratings, the testing is even more extensive, requiring 3 additional lots with failures out to 10,000 hours and 16,000 hours, which is about 2 years. Dezincification and stress corrosion cracking have been identified as a problem in the field in certain situations. NSF 14 is one of the few standards with requirements relating to these issues. Alloys greater than 15% zinc need to undergo special testing to determine their fitness for use in a potable water system. One of the key aspects of NSF 14 is its quality assurance requirements. NSF verifies the formulation of plastics material during a plant audit. The standard establishes rules for how to qualify extruders or molds during the manufacturer's startup. It establishes rules for manufacturers' calibration of testing equipment to ensure that it remains in spec over time. The manufacturers are also mandated to retain quality assurance records to document product compliance. And we require manufacturers to conduct quality testing. NSF inspects production plants 1 to 3 times per year and collects samples for annual monitoring testing. NSF 14 requires manufacturers to perform quality control tests in their own plant while they're producing. QC tests are run to help ensure that production is operating and making a product that consistently meets the requirements of the standard. If a product passes QC requirements, this is an indication that quality is adequate and the product may be released for sale. Products that fail QC indicates that there's some problem with production that needs to be corrected and the product should be scrapped or repurposed. The table shown is an example of the QC requirements in the standard. The standards establish what tests must be conducted by the plant, the frequency they must be run based on the product type and material type. The plant must also maintain a record of QC testing, and this is audited by NSF during monitoring inspections. As you can see, certain tests are mandated every 2 hours, others every 24 hours, weekly, annually, and so on. NSF also performs hundreds of different testing on plastic piping in our own laboratories. These requirements are found in the ASTM standards, CSA standards, AWWA standards, etc. These are only some of the more commonly run tests. Dimensions, hydrostatic pressure, impact, chemical resistance, stiffness, crush, flattening, thermocyclic, burst, chemical or chlorine resistance. Why is all this testing necessary? Producing quality plastic products is highly dependent upon the quality of raw materials, precise monitoring of the manufacturing process, and frequent quality control testing. As we all know, the one consistent aspect of manufacturing is change. In order to stay competitive, meet production needs, reduce costs, fulfill quality goals, successful manufacturers are constantly having to implement change in their operations, in their suppliers, equipment, ingredients, and process parameters. Now each member of their supply chain is doing the same. Any one of these changes has the potential to affect the quality of the product. Regular and impartial testing and auditing by a third party confirms that product is consistently meeting quality requirements over time. During NSF inspection of facilities, we perform a production area walkthrough, review of production process and quality control program, identification of the sources of potential contamination, verification of product formulations and material sources, selection of test samples, review of manufacturer's record system and key records. We review general and program policies. We review corporate and plant contact information. We complete an audit report summarizing the results and identifying any non-compliances that need to be resolved. Now, what if a product fails a monitoring test by NSF? Manufacturers are under contract with NSF. They are only allowed to release products to the marketplace that meet the requirements to which we certify. If product is non-compliant, they cannot sell it with the NSF mark on it. Now, depending on the failure, NSF has the ability to place production on hold at the plant. The manufacturer must find the source of the problem. They must correct it. And NSF will retest the product, verify corrective action by the plant. Now, if there's a public health concern, NSF may force a public notice or even a product recall. Once all the product requirements are met, products that are certified are entitled to bear the NSF mark, and products will appear in the NSF listings. The listings can be found at www.nsf.org. Once products are certified to NSF Standard 14, products may bear the NSF mark. The mark for Standard 14 is the NSF mark plus an end-use designator. Now, the end uses are shown in blue, include things like potable water, drain, waste, and vent, sewer, radiant floor heating, geothermal, and many more. In addition to the NSF mark, the product standard will also appear in close proximity. A C or a US may also appear next to the mark if products are shown to meet the Canadian or US requirements. NSF does have a regulatory hotline if there are any questions about products acceptance in the field, or you may contact me at the number shown. Thank you for listening. This concludes our webinar segment. Please see our other webinar segments for the plumbing industry.